Okay, fifth period, I'm going to restate the instructions just in case you did not get a chance to see me today. What you should have received is part one of the semester one review packet. Your semester exam is next Tuesday for part one and next Wednesday for part two. Remember, depending on how you behave today and tomorrow, possibly with the substitute, will depend on whether you will have the opportunity to use this review on your midterm exam. So make sure that you behave well and not give the substitute any trouble. Also, I am going to do only numbers 1 through 10 today, so we won't get too far ahead in comparison to the other classes. If you need to pause, stop, rewind this video, please let the substitute know, or either Holden or Alba can control the computer. Just make sure that you let them know what you need to see over again. Also, everyone will need to turn in this packet into your appropriate tray, which is near my desk over there where it says the number 5. That is not an option. Everyone has to turn it in. A, because I don't want you losing it, and B, because whatever we do together will count as your pop quiz grade number 10. So make sure that you turn it in, because if I don't get it in, then it will be a 0. Okay, so let's start off with number 1. Number 1 says, explain the characteristics of an angle in standard position. Now, we've discussed, I guess orally, what really is an angle at standard position. I don't think we've actually written down the formal definition of it, but let's go ahead and do that. An angle, and it's up there, an angle at standard position is an angle which starts at the positive x-axis and goes in the counterclockwise direction. So I'm going to give you a couple seconds to write that down, and I will also show you a graphical representation of what an angle looks like in standard position. So remember, this is nothing new. It's just like whenever you have your angle theta, what we've been working on lately with vectors. Your angle theta always starts at your positive x-axis and goes all the way counterclockwise towards your vector. So that's exactly what an angle at standard position is. Okay, so let's go ahead and basically have our angles. And I'm going to go back to the definition just in case you didn't get it. But let's go ahead and... Alright, let's see. I have my x and y axis. Let's see, I'm trying to find the right size for this. Okay. And then Baby Crooked, y'all, I do apologize. This is Paint, so it's not really a good program. But here is my x and y axis. Okay, and let's say I have some angle, which I will place right here. Okay, and then my other angle part is right here. So the actual angle that I want is this part right here, from the positive x-axis all the way to, you can say, that side of the angle. That's exactly what an angle at standard position is. Again, I'll show you another representation. Let's see, let's clear this. And we can have my x and y axis. And again, it is crooked. Okay, and then basically I'm not going to draw an angle here. Or if we could draw it somewhere in here. We could even say that's a vector. So we know that an angle at standard position, again, is basically going from the positive x-axis all the way to your vector, and that's an angle at standard position. Notice the direction I'm going is counterclockwise. That is the appropriate way we go in trigonometry. So make sure you notice how my direction is going, and you can always see, because as you can see, my arrowhead is going towards that direction, counterclockwise. All right, so now let's go on to number 2. Number 2 states, let's take a look at number 2. Okay, it says, label the parts of an angle at standard position. Okay, you've seen those or that type of question before. Let's go back to Paint. Okay, so let's see. Get a new one. Let's zoom in. All right, so let's just draw an angle. And I'm just going to say that this is P, Q, and this is R over here. And let's go ahead and put an X and Y axis on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say the X and Y axis is right here. So technically this angle is really in the first quadrant. Okay, and of course from here to here we have an angle which we will call theta. All right, so let's look at QP. So this side of QP, that is what we will call our initial side. So QP, and I'm just going to write it again, it's going to be bad handwriting because it's Paint. So QP, in other words, it's a ray, is called the initial side. And what about ray QR? Okay, this is kind of similar to vectors also. It was always given initial and what? Terminal, that's right. Okay, so ray, ooh, I messed up. Hold on, let me change this right quick. QP, I don't know why I said QR. Let me change that. So that's QP. There we go. And QR is what we call our terminal side. Okay, so QR is what we call terminal side. Okay, so that's our parts of the angle. Of course, the inside angle is called angle theta. And let's just, for supplemental purposes, if I were to give you point Q, and I wanted to know, well, what is point Q? That is something you should know. You should know that point Q is called the vertex. Okay? So on your midterm, you may have what is point Q. Of course, your angle is going to be called different letters, but it's also, depending on what side it is, you're going to answer. It may ask you, what is QR? And you'll say terminal side. What is QP? You'll say initial side. What is point Q? You'll say vertex. So make sure that you know every side of an angle at standard position. Okay, so let's go on to number 3. If we look at number 3, it says find all 6 trig functions. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so that goes back to some reviewing. Let's get a new one. Gonna go ahead and zoom in. Okay, so basically we have a right triangle. And we have our theta, which is right here. And of course we have our sides. We have C, we have A, and we have B. The first thing you should do is label with respect to theta. B is opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. Okay, it's opposite. With respect to theta, A is adjacent. And of course, directly across from the 90 degrees is what we call our hypotenuse, which is side C. Okay, so now that we've labeled, we can go ahead and find all 6 trig functions. So let's start off with sine of theta. Remember SOHCAHTOA. The trig ratio for sine is opposite over hypotenuse. All right, so what letter represents opposite? Letter B. And what letter represents hypotenuse? Letter C. Great. Okay, and then we have next, which is cosine of theta. Now, do we remember what the trig ratio for cosine of theta is? It's adjacent over hypotenuse. So if we look at those letters, adjacent represents letter A according to my triangle, and hypotenuse represents letter C according to my triangle. Next, we have tangent. So we have tangent of theta, and we have that ratio to be opposite over adjacent. Okay, so if we look at that, opposite represents letter B, and adjacent represents letter A. Okay, that's the first 3. Now let's go ahead and find the next 3, which are the reciprocals, not the inverse, but the reciprocals. So let's make sure we know the difference. Okay, so then we have cosecant of theta, and because they're reciprocals, all we really need to do is what? Exactly, all we need to do is just flip them. So cosecant of theta is C over B. Secant of theta is C over A, that's right. And then cotangent of theta is what? A over B, correct. Okay, so that's all 6 of my trig functions. And I'm going to go ahead and box them in for you. Or at least try to box them in. I'll probably circle them. Okay, so make sure that you know the proper notation for it. Okay, so that's number 3. Okay, number 4. Let's take a look at number 4. Identify the ratio A over B for the indicated angle and find its value. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. It's a right triangle, and the angle that we're looking at is a 30-degree angle. All right, so let's see. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. Zoom in. And it seems that I think I may be running out of time. So let's check. If not, I'll go on to the next video. Okay, so let me go ahead and draw the right triangle that we have. And again, it may be crooked. This is Paint, not too good of a program. So we have our angle, which is 30 degrees. Okay, and it says identify the ratio A over B.